idea for the show.
I still don't know what the idea is.
It's about nothing.
Right.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
They say, what's your show about? I say nothing.
There you go.
I think you may have something here.
Cross Coast Bias presents the League About Nothing podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We have our first 2024 off-season edition show. We are going to be doing a first-round rookie mock draft, and we have a special guest star with us, the League About Nothing's very own JMC. JMC, how are you?
I'm good, fellas. How are you?
Ready to go.
Doing well tonight. Excited for this. Excited for this mock. So we're going to be doing the first round of our draft. So just the first 12 picks, and we are going to be using the mock draft that Dane Brugler did for The Athletic on January 16th, which is a 2-round mock draft that lists 20 different skill position players. So we're going to have a somewhat decent player pool to select from here. We'll have that shared on the screen now for everybody to see what the selections are and their landing spots. But we'll get into those as we make the selections, and we'll cover them. Link in the description there. We assigned these picks not exactly randomly, but mostly in order here. But we made sure that no one was making their own selection. So first up, I'm going to be making the first overall pick for Georgia Mike. Georgia Mike's team has a few holes in it. There's a reason he's got that number 1 overall pick. So, at this point, we can only assume that he'll be doing a lot of legwork and a lot of research in this draft. But I don't think we really need a ton of research at the top. First overall pick, taking Marvin Harrison Jr. This is not a tough one.
There we go.
Okay.
Starting with a wild card right off the top. I was
All
wondering if you were going to go here because he doesn't have any quarterbacks. So
yeah,
he's been building up his receiver room. I think there's a good chance that this is the actual result we get, and he kind of kicks the quarterback can down the road either later in this draft or to next year and kind of goes for the 101 again next year.
I see that as a very likely possibility. His team that he took over was left in a pretty tough state, as we've discussed, by its previous manager. And he's really shown...
Shout out Bruno Davis.
Shout out to Bruno. He's really shown...
Good job, Bruno.
Not a lot of interest in going out and acquiring a quarterback directly. But I wonder if, like you said, we just see that one extra year of maybe take a quarterback this year. He's got picks 5, 8, and 9. So he could easily get a quarterback at 5, especially because... Harrison's off the board. Unless we go quarterback, there's going to be one of the top 3 there. I could see him getting the what's viewed as surefire elite guy at the top who will hold value even if he wants to move on, even if he wants to move that for another position like quarterback later on. But we've been hearing about Harrison for more than a year now. He's top of everyone's board for a reason. That's where I would go.
Everyone's a euphemism, right? He's not the top of mine, but
so I heard.
He's certainly
we'll get there in a minute.
He's certainly got the market cap, right? I mean, where's he at on KTC and sites like that? He's already going in the first round of startup drafts before he's drafted.
Which is insane.
I mean, he's going ahead of Chase, Lamb. He's going ahead of Herbert. I mean, outside of the top 5 quarterbacks or so, and Jefferson, he's that's where he's going in startups. So, I mean, even if you don't think he's the best player, you're really flushing value if you don't take him or trade back, right?
Exactly. And if you recall, we started our startup draft was the year that Jamar Chase was coming in as a rookie. And don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure Mel drafted him in the 5th round. Like it was not a first round rookie draft type of player. And Chase was, far and away
the cleanest wide receiver prospect ever. Cleanest wide receiver prospect ever.
Yeah. Exactly. And Harrison's going significantly ahead of that in startups.
Well, at that time he couldn't catch the ball, remember?
That's true. Yeah, there was
that
no
was
stripes
catch
on
the
it.
NFL ball.
That was peak Chase. The stripes. I can't see the ball the same way.
If you go back and look, so the reporter asked him, like, what's the difference between the NFL ball and the college ball? He's like, well, you don't see the stripes or whatever. And like it got blown out of proportion. And like, all of a sudden he's slipping in drafts. And there you go. But, there's a several round difference between him as a prospect and Harrison Jr. as a prospect. So like you said, you're flushing value away in the pick if you don't take it, essentially. Any arguments that it shouldn't be the pick? Would you either of you have gone, a quarterback to start off?
Given the depth of this league and the dearth of, you get 64 starting receivers every week because every team's got two, right? Yeah. You've only got 32 starting quarterbacks on any given week. Like 15 of them are good. So my tendency in this league, I think, is always going to be quarterback aggressive because the rosters are so deep. It's really hard to stream on here. Even horrible backups are owned. So I don't have an issue with it, but given the context of the league, I'm surprised.
Fair enough.
But I'm also I don't want to call myself a Marvin hater, but I'm also not I don't have the love affair with him that some like analysts do. I like him. I don't love him.
Makes sense.
Yeah, my take is the only way I'm not going quarterback with this team is if I'm punting another season, right? And if I'm just trying to avoid quarterbacks in general. And I think we will see some backlash against quarterbacks based on how the last couple of seasons have gone. Last year, especially because so many got hurt and struggled.
A lot of injuries. You
saw 75,000 different starting quarterbacks. I think
that sounds right.
People may overreact and not view them as the
roughly accurate,
solidified assets that they should be in a dynasty. And there's a reason that the previous years, 11 of 12 first round startup picks were quarterbacks, right? It's not trending that direction early in this offseason. I wonder if there's backlash for that will carry over into rookie drafts where you see Harrison kind of default to 101.
All right. So yeah, like you guys said, I think it's probably not the traditional pick. That's fair. Traditional would see the quarterback, be it, Williams, May, whoever you want. But Georgia Mike seemed perfectly content to come in and sit for a season on a pretty tough roster. I don't think he's going to display that level of patience in his first year and then all of a sudden get impatient in his second year. I think we might see him, like I said, do it again. Right. But obviously that's for him to decide. And
another thing that really plays into this for him is he's owns a third of the first round. And in this draft, we have 4 first-round quarterbacks, another one that just missed top of the second, and then another one early in the second. So there's a lot of quarterback value according to these landing spots. If this is how the actual draft plays out, a lot of these guys are in consideration in the first, mid to late first round.
We saw Will Levis sneak into the first in ours, despite the fact that he was not a first-round selection in the NFL.
Yeah, and he went to top of the second, right about where Bo Nix goes in this draft. So
exactly. All right. So let's move on. Pick number 2 belongs to Benign Rug, and making that selection tonight will be JMC. Take it away.
I'm gonna go with the guy that has a chance to be generational. I'm gonna take Caleb Williams at quarterback here. I think that he has the potential to bring a really high rushing floor along with a potentially special ability to throw the ball around. And I also think that once you leave the tier of, elite young guys at quarterback with your Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Burrow, Jalen Hurts as a fantasy asset, I think that there's some room for volatility upwards. And if he comes in and lights it up, you could be looking at yourself owning the QB5 or QB6 in terms of, market value on quarterback within year 1 or 2, which is an extremely valuable piece to have. So,
yeah, we've already seen it with Stroud.
Williams.
Stroud's quarterback 2, 3 at worst right now.
He was 2 at some point this month.
Yeah. I mean, we've already seen this scenario play out. He just has to, even if he doesn't have a Stroud level season, if he's just
And he does, and in terms of real football, he probably won't. But Caleb brings a lot to the table as a runner, and we already know he has the ability to make every throw. And we've already seen, with Jalen Hurts' first shot of the pod, you don't have to necessarily be an elite passer to be an elite fantasy quarterback. So I think that Caleb brings a ton of safety as a fantasy asset.
Yeah, the rushing gives him a pretty high floor, even if he struggles the first year. But I'm not sure that he will. I mean, he's got the arm to make all the throws, and he's certainly not afraid. This is not a guy that is throwing half his passes at or behind the line of scrimmage. This guy's pushing the ball downfield, even without a great receiving core.
Yep. And I think that there's a potential for that Chicago team to look even better with Caleb than what they have with Justin to this point. I think he's liable to take less detrimental sacks. They've got the draft capital to add receivers to that room, and they've already got a legitimate one, is what it looks like. And DJ Moore just had the best year of his career. So I feel pretty good about Caleb. And I think that defense took 5 steps forward last year, and he may be able to play within the confines of, having a good defense and not have too much pressure on him where he's taking a bunch of sacks, dropping back 55 times a game, putting the ball in dangerous positions. So I feel pretty good about Caleb Williams. Wasn't expecting to have him here. I'll have to save the surprises for later.
It's the chalk pick. It's a smart pick.
I think Rugg will do a backflip if Caleb falls to him at 2. After the Bryce Young pick last year, he could certainly use a star quarterback.
He does not have a quarterback anchor in any way.
Yeah.
You got to wonder if he feels that burn a little bit too much, though. If he's thinking, I don't want to get burned like that again, and that gives him pause to draft, any quarterback.
Yeah, I could see that. I just think that what happened with Bryce is semi-unique in that it was probably the most dysfunctional offensive ecosystem from a scheme perspective in the NFL besides New England. And
it's like you've already forgotten that Urban Meyer exists.
Well, talking about specifically last year, I mean, Frank Reich's the play caller, Thomas Brown's the play caller, Frank Reich's the play caller, Frank Reich's fired. Now we're giving the ball to Chuba Hubbard 25 times a game, and I've got the worst wide receiver room in the NFL. My best receiver is a 34-year-old Adam Thielen. So I don't think that Bryce was necessarily put in a position to succeed. I don't know that he'll ever have the perception that we've got about CJ now, but I do think that there's a good chance that if that situation improves, we see a much better showing as a real life quarterback out of Bryce. And that's something that Ryan and I talked about before those guys were drafted. There's a good chance that, given their lack of rushing ability without the supporting cast, CJ had Nico Collins broke out in a big way. Tank Dell is obviously a very good player, and Bobby Slowick is a good play caller. They're going to struggle to be high-level fantasy assets without the rushing. Bryce had none of the play calling, none of the weapons, none of the O-line that CJ had. So I think the jury's still out on Bryce Young. I'm not ready to sell stock in the guy yet.
Yeah, I'm not burying him. I mean, you talk about basically worst case scenario, right? Everything that went wrong could go wrong. He didn't crumble. He led the league in throwaway passes. He wasn't forcing stuff. He wasn't developing bad habits where he's trying to force it at guys that aren't covered. I mean, if you get him receivers that can separate, he will find them.
At all.
Yeah.
If they can separate,
get him a line that can protect him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give him time.
Either or would work. I still think that we saw enough.
One or the other.
We saw enough. Yeah. I mean, he still got the creativity that we thought he had as a it's kind of like a playmaker of a thrower, of a guy that got the ability to evade the rush, step up into rushing lanes, sidestep out of rushing lanes, move linebackers, and throw into the voids he creates with his legs. I'm not ready to bury that guy yet. Like I said, maybe he's never CJ Stroud. That's TBD. But I still think I'm a Titans fan, and given the choice between Bryce and Will Levis, I'm probably still taking Bryce, although it's not a slam dunk the way that it was pre-draft last year.
Right.
All right. To bring it back a little bit to Williams, he does all of that stuff and does it at hopefully a slightly higher level. But he does not have that stereotypical QB1 frame. Obviously, he's a good slight bit bigger than Bryce Young, but he's not, like some of these other guys, 6'3", 6'4". Any worries about the size?
Well, we don't have official measurements, right? What do they list him at? USC 6'1",
6'1", 250
6'1" or 6'2".
That's big enough.
I'm not too worried about it. I think he's got kind of has a Russell Wilson, like young Russell Wilson type body to be.
Yeah, he's a fire
not
player
that tall, but he's pretty thick and he's very athletic, and he's a creative runner. He's nothing like Jayden Daniels as a runner. I think Jayden Daniels is going to come in as a runner, like not on the Lamar level, but whatever that level is, slightly below that. I think Jayden Daniels is going to be that as a runner, but I think Caleb is going to definitely have the ability to scramble, big scramble games, 30, 40, 50-yard rushing games, and he's got the frame to take the hits too. I'm excited about Caleb Williams. I wish he wasn't going to Chicago, but I'm
sure.
About Caleb Williams.
The only thing that I saw that slightly concerned me when I watched all the Caleb Williams stuff was he can take the contact, but it seems like sometimes he likes to take the contact a little bit too much, and I worry about that with his frame at the next level.
He's a player, man. Yeah. He's a player. That dude's competitive.
So, it's a bit different when you're taking those hits from other college players, though, and then you step up to the NFL. That's the only, and obviously he'll figure that out, and either it'll work for him or it won't, and he'll take a beating a few times and then learn to get down a little bit quicker. But that's one that would slightly concern me to start off.
Plenty of guys come in like that and they get it beaten out of them.
Yeah, Mahomes learned his lesson. They won't even sneak the guy anymore.
That was a fluke right there, the knee. That's number 2 for us, Caleb Williams to benign rug. All right, third up is me, but obviously I'm not going to be telling you guys what I plan to do.
I get to make your pick. All right.
So take it away.
All right, when I look at this roster,
you cry. Yep.
It makes me sad. You could use an infusion of talent. I mean, ideally, I would like to trade back, but we're not doing trades in this mock. But, with just the first round pick and then kind of a big gap before you have anything else and the amount of needs, I mean, trade back would be the first plan. But if not, I mean, Caleb and Harrison are pretty chalky for the top 2, maybe not in that order, but for them to come off the board. Honestly, the one position I kind of feel okay about is quarterback. I liked what I saw from Richardson. We know what Mahomes is. A lot. I think the pick that I would make if I was in the spot and I'm forced to pick, I'm taking Bowers. I think that Bowers may be the best tight end prospect that we've ever seen. If you're going on age-adjusted production, he's in this going 6th or 5th overall. He's the second highest drafted behind Pitts. He doesn't have Pitts' frame. He's not going to have his size-adjusted athleticism, but he's a great athlete. He's going to test well. I mean, we've seen him run jet sweeps and see him take it 50, 60 yards for a touchdown. He's plenty athletic.
He's going to run. If he has any track coaching, he's going to run. He's going to run mid 4.5 or faster.
Yeah, he's just not
sure
going to do it at 265 pounds or whatever Pitts did it at, right? So the size adjusted is not going to be the same level. But production, I mean, he blows Pitts and pretty much every other tight end in history out of the water. This guy was a true freshman, 18-year-old, best player in the toughest conference on the best team. He was their offensive engine. It's been like that the 3 years he was there. He's a willing blocker. He gives effort. He's going to be fine there. He's not the best technical guy, but they learn that. I don't really care if he can block, to be honest, because he's going to play on the Chargers and he's going to be Herbert's number 1 target probably in short order. They use the tight end heavily. I know we're getting a new offense, but we don't know the coordinator yet. We know Harbaugh's there. Probably going to bring in something similar to Michigan, which wasn't great for the tight end, but he's going to be a focal point of whatever offense he gets in just by default. Like, he's going to draw targets wherever he goes. And in this format, 2 tight end, extra tight end premium, it's hard to pass on him at this point.
Yeah, I almost took him at 2 with the quarterback. With the quarterback not going off the board first, I almost took him at 2. But Ruggs got 106, and I was just trying to treat it like, how would I play this if I had this pick? And, with the QB1 falling to me, I was like, I'm going to just go ahead and take it. But if I'd had the 105, I definitely would have taken Bowers and taken whoever was left at quarterback at 105.
The two real blue chip guys are off the board. It's really open, and all these guys are kind of in the same tier for me. So I'm taking the guy that could be the biggest difference maker. If this guy has a Laporta, even a Kincaid type season, we're talking about a top 5 tight end. He'll probably be tight end 2 in Dynasty immediately. And the scoring impact. I mean, we've seen mediocre tight ends score like wide receiver 1s in this format. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, and you're getting a huge difference in warp in tight end versus back end tight end. We're starting at least 24 tight ends every week. When you've got a guy that is scoring tight end inflated 18 to 20 points a week, makes a huge difference when people are starting guys that are scoring 0 to 5 points. It's the biggest positional advantage you can get.
Absolutely.
So how do you like that pick for your team?
I love it. you know that I like Bowers. He's a little bit undersized for the tight end position, but he makes the minimum, so that's good enough. With the ball in his hands, the dude's electric. They were running like sweeps for him and stuff. Like, you don't see that for tight ends.
Yep.
He's a big play guy for a tight end, which is great to see. Like you said, he's not a great blocker, but he gives a lot of effort at it. So I mean,
he'll be good enough where they don't have to take him off the field.
Exactly.
And that was the whole key for Laporta. He was able to play. He was at least able to be
good enough,
a credible threat in heavy packages where he didn't have to leave the field, which is where Kincaid was not good enough. And that's kind of what separated the two of them. Year one was Laporta just didn't have to leave the field.
Yep.
I really enjoy the way that he plays as well. He's not out there shying away from contact. He's fighting for the extra yards. He's a fun tight end to watch as well.
Well,
ton of fun.
Everything you need to know about him is the fact that he had the tightrope surgery to come back for their playoff run. When a guy's locked into an early first round pick, he didn't need to do anything else. He wanted to play. He wants to be on the field. Like that tells me all I need to know. He didn't shut it down.
The comp that I keep seeing everywhere is like, oh, he's like George Kittle. And like, honestly, it's not a bad comp.
It's
mentally.
Not. But he's got more. This is the hand in the dirt. He's a more nuanced route runner than Kittle.
Oh, yeah.
It was for sure, and maybe still is. I mean, Kittle was an okay route runner, but there's some stuff you can't teach that Bowers brings to the table, and DCs are going to be hesitant to leave linebackers one-on-one against Bowers for sure. He might own a fairly deep A-dot as a rookie, which, given where those targets are likely to come from, which is the intermediate 12 to 15 yard area, which is like the honey hole for good fantasy production, he could definitely light it up.
So the number 4 pick belongs to Criddle, and we're back up to me making that selection. Taking a look at Criddle's team, it's interesting. He's solid in a lot of spots, so I feel like this is another one where he's not necessarily locked into taking a quarterback. He's already got Hurts and Stroud. I mean, if you got Hurts and Stroud, you're in really good shape at quarterback.
Right. You're in a good position for sure.
So if I'm in charge of this roster, I'm probably going to pass on quarterback here. If I'm passing at quarterback here, I'd again, like what you just said before on my pick, probably look to trade back a little bit, but obviously that's not an option. So taking the next wide receiver off the board. I'm about to make someone a little sad, I think. He's not falling to you. I'm taking Malik Nabers. This
wide receiver one, baby.
Malik Nabers going to the Arizona Cardinals. It's a pretty good quarterback that's going to be throwing him the ball there. I'm pretty confident that one's going to work out fairly well. I know that Harrison's the number 1 on most boards. Nabers is the number 2 on most boards, and I know on your board, JMC, he's number 1 if I'm told correctly.
Number one on my board and number 1 in my heart. He is.
There you go.
He is the man. He is a blend of probably two of my favorite receivers in the NFL. He really reminds me of A.J. Brown and Zay Flowers. Like if they had a baby, that's who this guy reminds me of. I think he's going to be electric after the catch day one. He can win inside. He can win outside. You can give him the ball on jet sweeps and he can turn it into something. I think that his fantasy viability, landing spot dependent, if he lands in a decent spot, he will outperform Marvin Harrison Jr. year one because I think his game is ready to go. Where I think Harrison's contested catch stuff might take some time to translate. I'm all in on Malik Nabers. I promise you, if the Titans have the opportunity to draft Malik Nabers at 7, I will run down Broadway with my shirt off, screaming and yelling. I'm so confident that this guy is going to be an elite wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, it's tough to poke holes in his game, man. He wins everywhere. Like you said, inside, outside, short, intermediate, deep, all 3 levels.
Just he gets the ball and he goes. Like he's tough to bring down on first contact, and when he gets ahead of steam, you're not catching that, man.
He's skinny AJB, y'all. I'm telling you. This guy is 20 pounds lighter, AJ Brown. He's the real deal. And the way that these teams are going to these 2 high shell offenses where you want to matriculate the ball down the field, it kind of depresses scoring. It depresses some wide receiver scoring. You don't get a ton of one-on-ones on the outside. The key to elite fantasy production is going to be these guys that can take short, turn them into long, and they can win intermediate over the middle of the field. And I think he could do both. I feel really good about Malik Nabers.
Yeah, and you can't ask for a much better landing spot with lack of target competition in Arizona. Yep. Hollywood's a free agent. There's no guarantee he's back there. McBride was carrying the offense, getting 10, 15 targets a game at the end of the year. So he could fall into a huge target share right off the bat.
Yeah, and it's better than a lot of other landing spots at the top of the draft where quarterback is a question mark or there isn't a quarterback or that combination. I don't see a huge gap between Nabers and Odunze. I like them both, but in this instance, there's a quarterback gap. This mock here has, Nabers in Arizona and Odunze in
going to your New York Giants.
In New York with the Giants. Oh God! And it pains me to say it, but there's who would you rather have throwing your wide receiver the ball?
This is painful for both of you because one of you has Daniel Jones on their team, and the other one is a Giants fan.
Oh man!
Yeah, poor Danny. He needs all the help he can get.
But hey, if he gets Odunze, that could be a big upgrade.
Yeah, great. I'm all in. Where do I sign?
All right, we've seen your love letter to Malik Nabers there, but unfortunately you weren't able to draft him. But you'll have the chance to take whoever you do want here. You're up at number 5, picking for Georgia Mike, who acquired this pick via Mr. Good News.
Georgia Mike.
He's got Harrison off the board already. So
Harrison does at the top.
He does have Harrison off the board. And when you add Harrison to this team, frankly, it gets to the point where I really like the wide receiver room. I think Jayden Reed is a player. I know Michael Pittman's a player. I think Drake London's a player. I think the flashes we've seen from Jamison Williams have to be nothing if not encouraging. He still looks like the fastest guy on the football field.
Yep.
So I think I'm comfortable passing on Odunze and going for my fantasy quarterback 2 in this draft in Jayden Daniels.
There he is.
Yeah.
And I really like the landing spot to Atlanta with some weapons ready to go, multiple ways to support him, and then bringing in the passing game coordinator from the Rams and Zach Robinson. I think that ecosystem could be really healthy for a young quarterback. I was prepared to take him at 2, actually. So,
yeah, I can see that he's got a wide range of draft slots here. He can go in. I'm surprised that he dropped this far. I'm sure that Georgia Mike will be happy if this scenario plays out and he gets to choose between May and Daniels.
For sure.
After passing on quarterback at 101. And
absolutely.
I love Daniels. The thing that I always look for with quarterbacks that have this rushing upside is, can they limit the negative plays? That was the thing about Richardson as a prospect. He was elite at avoiding sacks.
Yep.
Daniels is elite at avoiding interceptions, avoiding turnovers, interceptions, fumbles.
Interceptions in the last 2 years combined.
He doesn't have negative plays. That's the problem with Fields. Fields is a great runner, but he has so many negative plays it defeats any positive gains So if that trait can carry over into the NFL, Daniels will be an elite fantasy asset.
Yep.
He doesn't
And that's
have
the
to
way
be.
I see it.
He doesn't have to throw for 5,000 yards. If he throws for 3,000 yards and runs for 800 yards and doesn't turn the ball over, the team will be good and he will be successful.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. And I love guys like a la Jalen Hurts that have multiple pathways, near the goal line to score. They'll let him throw on the goal line because he's got good receiving weapons. They're going to use him as a runner on the goal line because it's such an elite weapon. It gives the defense something to think about. I think he's got multiple pathways to really separating as a fantasy quarterback. I like Drake Maye as a real life prospect. I don't have any issues with him, but fantasy wise, give me Jayden Daniels for sure.
Yeah,
Smart.
unlike Jalen Hurts, he can also score from 60 yards out. He's
not
easily.
not a tush push merchant like our friend Jalen Hurts.
He doesn't have to score a bunch of 1-yard touchdowns.
His running is explosive in a way that most quarterbacks are not.
No, I mean it's Lamar, it's Josh Allen in the playoffs or in pseudo playoff games because they're going to get eliminated, and it's Justin Fields, and then I think Jayden Daniels steps right in there at that tier of guys. And he's young, and for whatever reason, these younger quarterbacks, like we were talking about with Caleb earlier, they run harder and they try to make bigger plays than what the older guys do. And I could definitely see him lighting it up in his first couple of years trying to win games.
Well, you framed it well. You said he was your fantasy number 2, which means, we're expecting those running stats and we're expecting those running plays to add up to the points, not necessarily for him to have the most long-term real life NFL success, but for fantasy purposes, the points will be there.
And I'm comfortable with him as a long-term NFL quarterback. I think that the Patriots should take him at 3, given the issues that they have, a quarterback. I do think he can throw the ball. I think he comes in with a similar-ish skill set to what Justin Fields brings to the table right now in terms of what he's really good at. He's a great runner. He's got a fantastic deep ball. And if he develops the ability to layer throws over the middle of the field, he's going to be a high-level quarterback for a really long time in real life and in fantasy. But I don't have to project whether or not he can hit 15-yard crossers over a linebacker and under a safety to know he can score fantasy points, luckily.
Right, he's got the built-in very high floor for fantasy, at least.
The thing that impressed me the most with him was his release. I love watching a quick release on a quarterback, and he's got that like an economy of motion when he throws. That's just so nice.
Yeah, and it's something that people don't talk about a lot, but it really truly does matter. And I think it's one of the things that separates a Purdy or a Mahomes in a lot of ways. And like, there's a reason that their quick game is effective, and their quick game is effective for a multitude of variables, whether that's scheme, the skill players, the line, etc., the play calling, timing. But those guys can get the ball out to their guys quickly off platform to where they're set up to get yak, right? And I think that Daniels has the ability to do that as well. He can grip it, rip it, get it out of there, and let those guys go to work quickly. It's something that, like, on an exterior screen or like a wide receiver screen, I don't think Jalen Hurts is that good at. He's kind of methodical, for example, in the way that he drives the ball out there, where Mahomes can catch it, not even really turn his body all the way into it and release it out there with velocity. Other guys have to really take their time and push the ball to the receivers, where the Purdy's, the Mahomes, those guys just don't have to. It just flips out there, and their guys are on the run before the defense has even had an opportunity to react.
Yeah, you want to see him do it at the college level because it's only amplified the importance at the NFL level. Windows are smaller and they close faster. So,
Yep.
And we saw him distributing the ball like that with NFL level talent last year. So, like, it can be done. And if he walks into a situation like this mock has him going to Atlanta, he's going to walk in with some pretty good wide receivers and skill position guys already. So he'll have a good foundation around him.
Yep.
All right. We're going to move on here. Pick number 6, we have Benign Rugg. Pick originally belonged to Flinch. Alvarez, take us away.
All right, if I'm rug and the board falls this way, I mean, I'm running and turning in my pick in half a second to take Drake Maye, who in this draft went 102 to Washington. I'm taking Drake Maye. I'm doubling down on quarterback. He got Caleb Williams to drop to him at 102. Got Drake Maye to drop to him at 106. I mean, that's probably best case scenario when you're a team in his position searching for answers at quarterback to get the guys that went 1 and 2 in the draft, in the NFL draft, to fall to you.
Yeah, and I like Drake Maye's spot as well. If they're able to retain Curtis Samuel there in Washington, I think he's got good weapons to be able to support him and make his life easy. I have no problem with Drake Maye.
He's not my favorite fantasy guy, but he's got a rushing floor. It's not the ceiling that Caleb and Daniels have, but he can run a little bit.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to push the ball down the field. That's what I want to see from a fantasy quarterback. I don't want to see a prospect that dumps it off and throws it behind the line. I want to see a guy that's not afraid to push it down the field. And he certainly has that gunslinger where he's going to go hero ball and he's going to throw interceptions. He's going to force it. But at least I know that he has the ceiling to make all the throws, and he's got the willingness to throw it deep and look for big plays.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like it.
He's the consensus quarterback too. You get that in a super flex league at pick number 6, something has gone horribly, horribly right for your team.
Yeah, no complaints.
Yeah, when I watch Maye, he's, like you said, he's mobile, but he seems to use it more to extend the play than to take off and run like a Daniels does or anything like that. Honestly, when I watch guys, I write down the first thing that sticks out to me about him, and the first thing that sticks out to me, he throws such a nice ball. My God, it looks like he's just like feathering every pass in perfectly to me.
He's got all the arm talent in the world.
Yeah,
and I think he led PFF's
big time throw rate
the last year.
Yeah.
He can make all the throws. He's not afraid to either.
When you hear a wide receiver like, oh, the wide receiver says he throws a very catchable ball, like I imagine that his wide receivers say that about him. I don't know if they do, but like when I'm watching him, I'm like, that's what I would expect to hear.
Yeah, and he's instantly the best quarterback Terry McLaurin's ever played with. Instantly the best quarterback Terry McLaurin's ever played with.
Yeah, I have got no argument against that right there.
Yeah,
That's true.
It's bottom line.
Who's number 2 on that list? Late stage Ryan Fitzpatrick for
it's
for
without a doubt
season or whatever it was.
Without a doubt, late stage Ryan Fitzpatrick. Sam Howell only wishes he could be Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Sam Howell, when they ask him who his hero is, says late stage Ryan Fitzpatrick. That dude's not fit to tie Ryan Fitzpatrick's cleats for him because Ryan can't bend over to do it anymore.
No, it's a good pick, and Washington has skill position guys and a decent offense around an incoming rookie quarterback. That would be a solid landing spot. I could see that working out well.
I mean, they were a competitive team until Howell really melted down and the negative plays started catching up to him. This wasn't a complete dumpster fire, even though they ended up with the number 2 pick. They really faded badly down the stretch. But new coach coming in soon. We don't know who it is yet, but he will have a new coach. We'll have a new offense. They got the skill guys in place. Like you said, if they can bring back Samuel, you got a decent receiver room.
Patrick Mahomes would give up a lot of money to have their receiving room.
Right. Dreams about a wide receiver room of Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel.
Dotson. Yeah. Shit, man. Even I think they've got Byron Pringle on their team now. I bet Mahomes would like to have that guy back.
Diami Brown might be one of
Diami
the top
Brown
receivers for Kansas City.
Diami Brown would play every snap for Kansas City. There's zero doubt about that. Hey, man, I'll watch a poor receiver room, but when I look at your receiver room and tell you that my receiver room is better than your receiver room, you got a problem in the receiver room. Because Mahomes would say yes to D-Hop, Traylon, Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips.
Westbrook Akine.
Yeah. Hey, he can catch the ball.
Right. Catch it and fall down. That's all we need. Can you do that?
All you have to do is catch the ball and fall down. But no, this pick was the no-brainer. Too much value to pass up.
Yeah.
Too high of a floor for the second overall pick. No-brainer.
Yep.
Easy selection.
And now his quarterback room is looking a lot better all of a sudden. Now he's got one of the top fantasy-wise quarterback rooms in the league.
Yep.
Number 7 is Alvarez's pick acquired via JMC. So both of you sit back, relax. Let me take over for a minute here. This is pretty straightforward because of who I know is managing this team. You are going to draft a wide receiver. You are here for the tier break. We know who the tier break player is. It's Rome Odunze. We're not going to beat around the bush on this one.
That's easy.
If our draft goes similarly to this one, you're probably not making a pick here. I don't think you dislike Odunze, but I just don't think you would do it. I've seen this happen too many times.
I ever make any picks?
There's like a 4% chance you actually make a selection here. But for our purposes, you're drafting Rome Odunze. Congratulations.
I'll take it.
He in this draft, as we mentioned before, Brugler has him going to the Giants at was it
6 overall?
6 overall, yeah.
I mean,
Daniel Jeremiah has him over Nabers in his big board. So
honestly, I don't have a problem with that. I have them basically even. I love Odunze.
And in this one, there's no draft capital separator. I mean, these guys all went in the top 6 picks.
Yeah.
We had 7 players in the top 8 picks of this draft. So
I watched for some reason a decent amount of college football this year. I almost never watch any. I caught some random Washington game in November, and I was like, oh, let me check out, who on this is projected to go high or whatever. And Odunze was one of the first players that I actually went back and watched after the college football season was over. And I love everything about the way this guy plays. He is got a great catch radius. He catches anything in his freaking zip code. He's tall enough, fast enough. I said it before, economy of motion. His body always seems to be in control. I don't know the best way to describe this. I'm not good with draft terms, but man, I really like the way he attacks the ball when it's in air. He goes for it with his hands. He doesn't let it come to him. He comes back to it when he needs to. I really like the way he played.
Yeah, the big thing about these top 3 receivers is they're all very good route runners. These are not guys that we're projecting that are crazy physical talent and we're just projecting them to turn into elite receivers. These guys are all, I mean, it's splitting hairs. Who's the best route runner between these 3? It's a tough call, honestly. They can all run routes. They're all big enough. They're all fast enough, and they're all good route runners. But yeah, Dunze's he's smooth.
And he's so smooth.
He's good in and out of breaks for a guy who's a taller receiver.
Yeah, he's listed 6'3", 215.
The one thing about Odunze, I scouted him last year because he was underclassman and I assumed he was coming out. And then he ended up coming back, which worries me for these senior guys. But he added another element to his game. He bulked up. He turned himself into a plus contested catch guy. He had the type of season you're looking for when the guy comes back to be a 4th-year senior, where he just kind of exploded, led his team to a championship appearance. He checks all the boxes for me. It's splitting hairs for me between these top 3 guys.
He's got it all. Nabers has it all. Harrison Jr. has it all. It's not like
poking holes in these guys' game is tough. All 3 of them.
Yep.
I mean, they're there, but you're talking about minor quibbles at this point. These are polished prospects. There's a reason they're going. The reason they're going top 6 in the draft. You don't usually get 3 receivers in the top 6 of the NFL draft.
All of these guys would be the wide receiver 1 in last year's class.
Oh, easily.
That's fair.
All 3 of them.
I don't think.
And even redrafting it now, the only one that you could make an argument for, maybe 2 that you could make an argument for over these guys is Zay and Puka. Other than that, probably just rather have these guys.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to argue that on you.
This is where the real draft starts now.
Yeah.
Well, now the fun begins.
That's as I said. If I'm taking that pick, I'm taking Odunze as well. But I almost wanted to grab someone else. I don't think you're taking that pick if that's your, if that's the board and that's your spot. I don't think you're doing that. I think you're trading back. Time will tell.
You never know. if I get a 6 overall draft pick to fall to me at 7 in a dynasty draft, I mean, it's tough to turn down that type of value. All 3 of these guys are going to be top 15 to 20 at worst.
Oh, they're all top half of the first round.
Fantasy guys. I mean, immediately, these guys are going to be wide receiver 1 or on the edge of the wide receiver 1 group overall for dynasty without ever playing a snap. So those guys cost a lot more than a mid first round dynasty pick generally.
I just got more excited for Odunze than I did for Harrison Jr. at the top. I feel like that was the excitement level ramped up a little bit.
Well, we all know what Harrison does, and
yeah, I know.
Everyone's already excited for him.
It's fair.
Let's talk about some guys that people aren't as excited for.
All right, so there we go. That's our top 7. That's what most fantasy prognosticators are predicting as the tier break. Obviously, a lot of that is going to be landing spot dependent, and somebody could jump up, somebody could slip down depending on what happens. But let's, like you said, get into the interesting part now. Pick number 8 belongs to Georgia Mike, acquired via the Juddernauts. Judd making that trade. And tonight we got JMC making the pick. Tell us what you're going to do.
I went back and forth. I have a guy that I prefer over the player that I'm about to take, but I'm not going to go that way here. I'm going to take the chalk pick, go the safe route. Brian Thomas Jr. for this one. Brugler has him going 17th overall to Jacksonville. I think that landing spot is sneaky good. I think some people look at it and say it's a lot of mouths to feed. My contention would be that, one, Calvin Ridley was kind of pigeonholed into a role last year that he wasn't very good at, that I think Brian Thomas could fill. He may not even be there next year.
Yeah, Ridley's a free agent.
Christian Kirk is a full-time slot guy. Evan Ingram has no A-dot. I think that Brian Thomas could definitely step into the high-value target role of down the field and end zone for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I would go Brian Thomas Jr. here.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy where a lot of what happens in the NFL draft is going to determine how I feel about him, because he's clearly a big, fast guy. He wins down the field. He wins in the red zone. He's going to be a combine darling because he's going to be huge and he's going to run fast. But he's one of these guys where he's a little more raw as a route runner. He came in as a higher star recruit than Nabers. This is the guy that we have to do the projection for what he could be. He could be a dominant X guy, or he could be DJ Chark, where he's productive in the right role as a complementary piece. But if he's going 17th overall to a team that needs a player that can do that, then I'm in. Like, this is an easy pick here.
That's what moved him up for me. It's not the player I would take here, but it's definitely the player plus landing spot plus draft capital spot.
Yeah. If he goes in the late first or early second, then he's not the 8th overall player in Dynasty. But in this spot, that's what I would do.
Yeah, and I'm not in on JJ McCarthy.
Talk about projection.
Yeah, I mean, his offensive coordinator in college didn't want him to throw the football, so it's usually a red flag for me for a quarterback. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
Come on, he's a winner.
Yeah,
that's probably going to get him pushed into the first round.
Yeah,
we can talk about him when he comes off the board, assuming he comes off the board in the first round.
Sure. If this league starts giving us 5-point bonuses for wins, maybe I'll take McCarthy, but probably not. This is the guy I would take. I like Brian Thomas. As far as the projection guys coming up, I like Brian Thomas over the rest of them.
When I was watching LSU, I didn't know who Thomas was. Again, not a huge college football guy to begin with, but I'm watching, knowing who Nabers is and knowing who Daniels is, and every fifth play, I'm like, wait, who was that? Oh, who was that? And every time it was Thomas doing just flying down the field in the end zone, 30 yards downfield,
splash plays. He can do splash plays.
So I mean,
and he's getting these balls. He's catching these balls sometimes, like these corner routes, and there's not even a DB on the TV screen, and that's usually a good sign when you're like, how did he get that wide open? and they're consistently doing it, he's probably doing something right. I think the route tree might be kind of limited, but the routes that he can run, you know?
Yeah, those are the routes we want in fantasy, right?
Yeah. I mean, he can run deep down the field. He's flexible enough and elusive enough to catch screens. I think Brian Thomas will translate well to the NFL. I don't have the concerns about Thomas that I do Keon Coleman, for example.
So Smiler, I think I'll like Keon Coleman quite a bit.
We're gonna get to him shortly, I think.
I was gonna say we'll get there when we get there, which I suspect will be shortly. But no,
when is my next pick?
Yeah, no, I know. When I was watching Thomas, like when I actually like went and just watched Thomas snaps and everything, he looked like a slightly faster version of Mike Williams to me. I don't know if that's a reasonable comp or not. I want you guys' opinion on that, because I'm not one for comps a lot of the time, but I looked at it and I was like, looks to be about the same size. Looks, maybe a little bit faster, but
I didn't see Mike Williams. I mean, Mike Williams seems intent on falling from like a 3-story building every single time he touches the football. Every time that dude just falls so hard. I mean, he hits the ground and bounces.
He does. That's probably why he's been hurt his entire career.
Yeah, I'm not sure who the guy reminds me of, but he's got more juice than he kind of reminds me of T. Higgins a little bit more than Mike Williams. He's not Jamar, obviously, but he's definitely more fluid than people think he is, given the size, and he's obviously got the downfield ability. Now, I think he's a lot faster than T.
Yeah, I was going to say he's going to test a lot better than T.
Yeah, he'll test way better than T. But just as far as like his ability to move at such a big, it was such a big frame. He kind of reminds me of T. I like Brian. He's a guy that I would feel good about. Even my Titans trading back and drafting as a high draft pick.
Again, what I wrote down was he's got that size speed combo. I think he's better suited as a number 2 in an offense than as a number 1, though. Like I think that the pairing with Nabers helped him in a lot of ways. I don't know.
He's got to develop his route tree. He's very good where he wins. He's got a very good wheelhouse. So if he fully develops the rest of the route tree, you're looking at a guy that has all the physical talent to be a dominant X player.
Yeah, I mean, if this guy starts winning like the deep dig, deep post route, you're in trouble, because he's already going to own the sideline routes.
Yep.
So that's Georgia Mike at number 8. And up at number 9, we have, stop me if you've heard it before, Georgia Mike. Pick acquired via Flea Flickers. And this time, Al, you're making the pick. Surprise us.
Yeah, I'm taking Keon Coleman. I'm gonna pass on McCarthy. Keon Coleman is when we're talking about projection, this is the guy you're talking about. He's got the physical skills. He's big, fast, thick, strong. He's raw, but I mean, the guy can move. He was the primary punt returner. You don't see a lot of guys that are 6'3", 6'4", 220, whatever he is, as the team's primary punt returner. You see flashes of it, right? There's no consistency there, but he moves like a slot receiver in a possession receiver's body. So the upside is there for me. When I'm at this point in the draft, I'm looking for who's got the highest ceiling. If everything goes right, who's got the highest ceiling? Is it JJ McCarthy? Is it any of these guys that went in the early second round? No, it's Keon Coleman. There's a chance that he flames out spectacularly. Like we've seen a lot of guys that have this kind of build and skill set that doesn't translate because they can't actually get open against NFL corners when they can't just bully guys or run past them. But the upside is there for me. So it's an easy pick for me at this point. Georgia Mike's got nothing to lose. He's got a bunch of first-round picks. If this was my only pick in the entire draft, I wouldn't feel great about it. But, if I got 3, 4 first-round picks, why not take a shot on a guy that's got one of the highest ceilings?
We should mention the landing spot for this one would Buffalo at pick 29 in the first round. So
landing spot doesn't hurt. Gabe Davis is going to be gone. They're going to need somebody to run those routes. Keon
Diggs
Coleman
might be gone.
Everybody might be gone.
Yeah, they need somebody to run these type of routes. And
It's going to be Khalil Shakir.
Allen's going to throw for a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns. I got to go to somebody.
Cade.
When he's getting first round capital, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. He's going to play. When the guy gets taken in the first round, even if he's not good, he's going to play all year.
Unless he's Quentin Johnston, and then he might not play all year.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he certainly got his share of snaps and routes. He didn't do anything with them, but he played a lot when they were forced to.
Yeah, after the whole team got hurt, he definitely got some run.
Being out targeted by Alex Erickson down the stretch is probably not great for your career.
Might be a concern.
Aspirations.
So
yeah, might be
I think that's going to be held against Keon Coleman too, because everyone's going to say, oh, he's this year's Quentin Johnson, right? Because he's a big, fast, physical receiver.
Yeah, I think that's unfair. I think Keon can actually win in contested catch situations, whereas anybody that had like a good eye for receiver talent would tell you that QJ's like hand placement and ability to high point the ball was iffy even in college. So he brought this big body, but this inability to separate at the catch point. It's like measurable wise, Mike Will and QJ, or Mike Will and or T. Higgins and QJ probably have very similar measurables in terms of vertical leap, arm length, height, all that. But those guys can really separate at the catch point, whereas QJ to this point has not
shrinks
been able to.
Shrinks at the catch point.
Yeah, I mean, T. Higgins is the catch point. When he goes up, it's not a 50-50 ball for T. Higgins. It's much more of the 65.
He knows
35.
how to use the size.
Yeah, he will erase a DB. QJ does not do that. And I think Keon's already better at that than QJ. So he'll at least have that.
The thing that I noted about Coleman was he's got there was a lot of flash, but he could use some
consistency,
smoothing out, some polish.
Yeah.
But the flash, the ones that make you go, oh man, look at that, are there. Like, the ability is there.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for at the end of a first round fantasy draft. Yeah. I'm looking for upside.
And I mean, pick 9, and again, we're signing all of Georgia Mike's picks for him, obviously. But at that point, he would already have Marvin Harrison Jr., Jayden Daniels, and Brian Thomas. So it's not like he's got one shot at this and he's taking it on Keon Coleman.
Yep. Right. Man, I'd be pretty happy with that draft.
Yeah, I'd be thrilled with that draft.
Well,
how did we let Georgia Mike get all of these picks?
It seems like a pretty good year to have four first round picks, especially when you got number 1 overall.
Well, yeah, if we get 7 guys in the first 8 picks of the NFL draft, fantasy relevant, then it's going to be a good year.
All right. Yep. Technically speaking, the next pick, if we were to continue in order, the number 10 pick is Criddles, acquired via Big Biscuits. Technically speaking, that one would be assigned to me, but we're pulling a little switch here to make it so that everyone gets a chance at picking for some different teams. So JMC, you're up at pick 10 for Criddle's team.
Perfect. So given his tight end room, I'm tempted to go upside tight end here, but I'm going to take the player that I wanted to take when I took Brian Thomas. Could be wrong, but he's a personal favorite of mine, and I love the landing spot. I'm going to take Ladd McConkey here. I think that there's a good chance T. Higgins is gone. If Ladd lands high second-round draft capital and goes to a place like Cincinnati that's already shown it can support two high-end wide receivers, I don't think he has any – I have no questions about his ability to be a productive NFL receiver. I really, really like him. He's one of the guys I have circled for the Titans in the second round, hoping he's there if we go tackle in the first.
Yeah, and the Bengals are going to lose Tyler Boyd too. He's a free agent as well. So
yeah, there's
going to be an inside-outside spot.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to come in and earn targets, and I think he will do that. I think he's a legit NFL receiver. I think he comes in as comes in is productive. I think he's a better athlete than people think he is, and I know he can run routes. I'm really excited to see that guy at the NFL level.
Yeah, he crushed man coverage in Georgia. Bowers was the guy when they were facing zone, and McConkey was the guy when they were facing man.
Yeah, if you beat man coverage to the point that DBs don't or the DCs don't want to play man coverage, you're probably pretty good.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, just a thought. So I'm in on Ladd McConkey.
Yep. He's got, I wrote down something I've never written before. He's got ankle flex. When he cuts, it is just wild.
It's a thing, man. Look at these guys, these
I
great
didn't understand
basketball players. Look at these great basketball players, man. Go watch videos of Kyrie Irving crossovers and don't watch the ball, watch his ankles.
Yep.
Seriously. It's
fair.
a thing. It's a very real thing with these route runners. And he has it. I mean, the guy he's got all the technique and he's got the physical ability. I think he runs in the 4.4s. Skilled and effective. It's hard to separate sometimes. But this guy's like probably the most skilled, technique sound receiver in the draft. He's that good.
Yep. And you're looking at a team with Criddle that is a lot closer to being competitive than a lot of these other teams, all the other teams that have all these extra first round picks. So he's looking for guys that are going to be plug and play. He's not looking for long-term projects, and he needs help in the receiver room. Specifically, the scoring tends to skew wide receiver heavy based on the negative quarterback scoring we have and the extra points for receiving first downs and things like that. It tends to skew wide receiver. So you have to have a good receiver room really to be competitive in this league. And that's his biggest hole on his team. He's got the quarterbacks. He's got the best running back. He's got tight ends enough to be competitive in this league, at least.
For sure.
And receiver is really the big hole. So it's a perfect team fit. It's a perfect guy you're expecting to produce right away.
Yeah, in that landing spot, I can definitely see him popping off for multiple super usable weeks.
Yep.
Yeah. You pair a guy who's got that ability to get open with a quarterback who is just going to find the open guy. You're looking at good things happening.
Yeah. I mean, he's the type of guy that could live in like the 5-6 catch range for 65 to 80 yards every single week.
Yeah. And it might not be those big burst scores that you see out of other wide receivers, but having that baseline in your lineup every week is super helpful. It means that you're not reliant completely on those boom weeks.
He feels like the type of guy to me that he's going to get you 15, especially in this league with the first down bonuses. And if he gets a touchdown, he's going for 20 plus every time.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good pick in the spot. I got no problems with that.
I think he goes higher than that too. Just PSA, I don't see him lasting that long
in the NFL draft or fantasy draft.
Yeah, in the real draft, I don't see him falling that far.
I mean, top 50 is pretty much the cutoff for what you're looking for fantasy receivers.
Yeah, I think
guys in the top 50 are usually in their own tier.
Depending on what the Titans do at tackle, I don't think he would make it past Tennessee, for example, with our second pick. And we've got the 7th pick in the second round. So
you could certainly use a reliable chain moving guy with upside for that offense.
Anything.
They could use someone to catch passes.
Yeah.
All right, so pick 11 belongs to Benign Rug, acquired via Melcrisp. We've already had a couple of picks for Rug. He got Caleb Williams at number 2 and Drake Maye at number 6. So really, it doesn't matter at all what happens here if that's the way it goes in real life.
Pretty good haul already. He's already gotten all of the quarterbacks. Is he going to be the guy that takes McCarthy as well?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Just take every quarterback horde.
There is some value to it. The likelihood that they all bust is pretty low.
Right. But not 0, unfortunately.
Yeah, not 0, no.
That would be very tragic.
Funny to watch play out, though.
Going to take another quarterback for him?
I'm not, because of the fact that he already has 2. But like, I almost
triple down. Triple down. Do it, you
almost want
coward.
to. The pick I would make at this spot is Troy Franklin.
Oh, yeah. I knew that was coming.
I watched him, I don't know, last week or something, and he might be my favorite player in the draft.
Yeah.
I like it.
Everything is so smooth. He's got the twitch movements. He's got that top gear when he gets the space to get out there. And I mean, I know he's tiny in terms of, the height weight combo, but he's not tiny in terms of his size. He's 6'3". It's just that he's a very slim
140 pounds. I knew you were going to like him because you loved Zay Flowers last year.
It's true. I did.
You were right about that. That dude, he is awesome. Elite player.
Yeah.
Probably don't throw the ball at L'Jarius Sneed in the AFC Championship game again. Just throwing that out there.
Rookies doing rookie things.
Yeah. Jeez. Dude is special, though. If Troy Franklin's anything like that, I hope I have a ton of him. That dude was a ton of fun to watch this year.
Also, when you're watching the Oregon film, those uniforms are so much fun.
Yeah, they're the second best uniforms in college football. Behind my Memphis Tigers.
There you go.
All right.
I knew that was coming.
Who actually have elite uniforms, okay? The uniforms are elite.
I don't like that Oregon has a different uniform every single game.
It's crazy. They really do.
It's almost like the Nike owner was an alum or something. Like he gives them free stuff or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I don't think anyone else is getting away with that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But
I like Troy Franklin.
That's the guy that to me jumped out as I really want to see where he goes.
Yeah, I hate this landing spot.
In the yeah, no, the landing spot's tough. He's
54 to Cleveland. I mean, it's kind of
Joe Flacco is going to be throwing this guy the ball. Amazing.
Honestly, though, behind Cooper, who are you worried about?
Well, Njoku's the real.
Sure, yeah, but
he's the real wide receiver one on that team.
I mean, Joe Flacco.
if Flacco's throwing the ball, sure.
Bring back Flacco.
Support Njoku, Cooper, and a rookie for sure. I mean, if it's Deshaun Watson, burn it all down.
Right.
They're all screwed.
If Franklin goes out there and he gets under, I don't know, if he runs under a 4.4, which is possible, but he's going to go high in the draft. He's going to get somebody excited about him.
Boys, I got to tell you, I'm really loving the way this draft is shaping up for my 202 share.
Right.
I'm
telling you, man.
It looks like this in real life.
You're gonna be.
It's a good pick to have.
You're gonna be gifted a new quarterback here.
Yeah, easily.
JJ McCarthy, come on down.
Here we go.
Yeah, I like the Franklin pick. Ruggs got one of the worst receiving groups in our league.
Yeah, he needs that position, and if he's already gone quarterback previous to this, he's not getting that help anywhere else. So
I haven't watched much of Franklin. I don't have a huge opinion on him yet.
Go watch.
He's fast.
You're gonna have a good time.
That. He is fast.
Yeah, he put up 81, 13, 83, and 14 touchdowns.
He's like a tall Tank Dell. I think they probably weigh about the same. He's light, and you don't expect him to be the number one receiver by a huge margin like he is. He carried that passing offense really. You'd expect him to be more like a guy like Xavier Worthy, where he's a light deep shot specialist. But Franklin really won all over the field.
So we have one last pick to make here. At number 12, Mr. Good News acquired that pick via Alvarez. And to make that pick, we have Alvarez.
Right. My rightful pick that I should be making.
Yeah.
If I didn't make that ill-advised Justin Herbert trade.
You should be trading.
I am sure that if you want to make your rightful pick, you can trade number 7 for number 12. I'm sure he will do that for you.
I don't know how I feel about that. Looking at this board versus who was available at 7.
versus potentially Odunze.
So, I mean, Mr. Good News needs everything, right?
Yep.
The whole board is open. There's no there's nowhere we have to lean to positionally. He could use a quarterback. There's a couple here on the board. McCarthy was a mid first round pick. He's he's below where I feel like you have to take a guy. You know, anybody that's in the top 10, even top 12 of the NFL draft, you have to take them. Once you start slipping out of that range, you get to the mid to back end of the first. I'm not as locked in with taking these guys in the first round of fantasy drafts. You know, I'll let them slide a little bit when I don't really like the player. I'm not a huge fan of him, like we talked about earlier. When you're in the biggest games that Michigan had, he wasn't allowed to throw the ball. I mean,
not really that good.
They didn't need him to, you know, with a dominant running team, but that speaks volumes to me how the play calls go. You know, it works for all positions. You know, when I see a receiver, do they use him in creative ways? Are they making plays to get him the ball in his hands? Michigan took the ball out of McCarthy's hands in big spots, so that scares me. I think landing with the Rams where he went is a good spot for him. He can caddy behind Stafford because he really needs drop back snaps. You know, he just didn't throw a lot of passes. He's an underclassman. He didn't throw a ton. He needs reps. You can see it in his film. He struggles with decision making in a timely fashion. He can make the throws. He's got the arm. He's got the athletic upside. He can be a difference-making runner of the ball. So he's got the built-in fantasy floor. But at this point, I'd rather take a receiver that I really like in Adonai Mitchell.
Yep, he's the pick.
He's going into a target vacuum. Mingo ain't it. We didn't like Mingo when he got drafted. We were forced to take him based on landing spot and where he went in the NFL draft. But you know, he just proved that he was overdrafted by the NFL. He's not a player. It's not going to happen for him. He was about as bad as you can be as a rookie. And those guys don't go back.
Worse rookie year than Traylon Burks.
Yeah, those guys turn into Jalen Reagor. Like if you're that bad as a rookie, it usually doesn't happen. So this guy's going to walk into probably a wide receiver 1 role. He's big. He's physical. He was productive at Texas. I mean, he checks the boxes for me. The landing spot couldn't be any better. Top of the second round.
He can run routes for a big guy. He can run routes.
Moves well for a big guy.
Yep.
I'm in on Mitchell. It's who I would have taken.
Good long speed.
Yeah.
That's a pick.
Really good long
speed. He's gonna test well. He's a good athlete. He's got good size. Everything you're looking for. The draft capital is as good as it can get. He's the first pick outside of the first round. So that's how I'm wrapping up the draft.
Yep, I like it. That's who I would have went.
The question I have for him is, can he run anything other than vertical routes? Because I didn't see any.
Yeah, I think he can run routes.
At this point,
he's got some nuance to it.
Yeah, at this point, we're shooting upside. If he can win at the intermediate level, like he can down the field, it's similar to thought behind a guy like Coleman. If they can develop that part of the game, then you're looking at a top wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 type guy for fantasy because he can already do the rest of it, and he's got the physical tools.
Yeah, I think he can do it. I think he's got the movement ability to run most of the routes. He's not McConkey, you know, but he can run routes, and he's got the physical ability to kind of erase some of the concerns that are there for, you know, not being an elite technical route runner. Bryce Young and Andy Dalton made Adam Thielen viable because he was getting 14 targets a game. You give Adonai Mitchell 14 targets a game, I bet he can do something with them.
A lot more than Mingo.
That seems likely.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, when he'll break one deep, and that will be the entire production.
I see. One play. As long as I don't see him diving out of bounds to make catches,
as long as no reason jump the wrong way to catch the ball.
Right.
It's probably an improvement on what Bryce had. Do you know how much of a culture shock it had to be for that poor kid to go from throwing the ball to like John Mechie and Jamison Williams to throwing it to whatever those corpses were they had out there?
Right.
God, just a disaster.
Yeah.
So hopefully Mitchell's an upgrade for Young. Quarterbacks that aren't elite, top 10, top 12 type scorers, wide receivers outscore them. So, when it's close for me, I'm probably leaning wide receiver at this point.
Interesting draft that we had here. A lot of
see
wide
it mostly
receivers.
playing out like I could see it mostly playing out that way. I don't think McConkey goes as high as what I took him, but that's a personal player preference. And I really like the landing spot in Brugler's mock.
Yeah, the landing spot helps. That's a lot of it at this point as well. Like the only thing I didn't mention that I wanted to mention on Mitchell is that dude. Do you remember the Futurama episode where they're driving some ship and Zap Brannigan says she's built like a steakhouse but handles like a bistro?
Yeah.
That man cannot turn. He's got no change of direction.
He's probably going to skip the agility drills. That would be my assumption.
Better.
He's gonna.
He probably should.
He's otherwise going to test. He's going to test like DK.
And it's like slow meandering curves, and I'm like, that's not sharp. And then he does it again. I'm like, that's not sharp. There's no cuts here. Like, but anyway. All right, so that's picks 1 through 12. I'll read off the recap really quick here for everybody. We had Marvin Harrison Jr. 1, Caleb Williams 2, Brock Bowers 3, Malik Nabers 4, Jayden Daniels 5, Drake Maye 6, Rome Odunze 7, Brian Thomas 8, Keon Coleman 9, Ladd McConkey 10, Troy Franklin 11, and Adonai Mitchell at 12. So that's our first round mock draft. We'll see how inaccurate we are come the real draft, but it was fun to take a look and get an assessment of what we think might possibly happen.
Yeah, I think it's important to get these pre-combine, pre-draft takes in, so you kind of have a baseline of where to go from. I try to get the rankings done before we see too much, and then try not to adjust too much. That's where you get in trouble. You see a guy that you didn't like, you had him outside of your top 10, and then suddenly he gets a much higher draft spot than you thought. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and people push him up higher.
You're not allowed to say that. Clyde was your RB1 before the draft.
All right. To be fair, I liked Clyde Edwards-Helaire when I thought he was going to be a later pick.
Fast, athletic, useful
Contact
at all
balance.
in any way for football.
Yeah. But yeah, it's good to get your thoughts organized, your players maybe not firmly ranked, but an idea of how you value them in relation to each other before we know where all those landing spots are.
There's always guys that pop up, and then the combine will bring some more guys when we start double counting athleticism we saw on tape, and then we give them more credit when they actually put it on on film on the combine numbers. So there'll be guys that jump up here, which means it's already a pretty deep looking draft. So that early second, mid second is looking pretty good right now.
202, baby.
Right? You're welcome.
Travis Kelce only plays hard in the playoffs.
I was like, I could have used some of this production in the playoffs, in our playoffs.
I could have used some of that production
all
in the
season.
Playoffs. Yeah,
you two quit your bitching. You're the last 2 league champions. Get out of here.
All right, guys. I appreciate y'all.
Right here.
Yeah,
Let's do it again soon.
We appreciate you coming on here. Yeah, we're gonna have to
joining us. It was fun.
We'll have to revisit
Y'all have a
this
good one.
later in the off season when we have more data points and see what's changed.
I'm in. Y'all just let me know.
Yep, sounds great.